Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Twist Gaming. We are coming to you live from Origins 2018 in the wonderful Columbus, Ohio, bringing you all great convention coverage. I have the pleasure of being here with Tom from Thames and Cosmos, and he has brought me presents, really cool new games to show off. So, Tom, because I'm feeling a little tongue-tied, I'm just going to throw this right on over to you.
Oh, great. Well, thank you very much. This is a great opportunity to be here.
Thank you for coming.
We're also, Thames and Cosmos is also excited to be, invited to show off our games because we're excited about these games.
Awesome.
Yep. So the first one I'd like to show a little bit about is The Legends of Andor.
Okay.
Now, some of you might see this box and think, oh, I've seen this before. Well, it actually came out a few years ago. But it's getting more and more expansions, and so for that reason, it's fresh again. And so I'm going to show it again.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
So this is a big board,
A big, beautiful board.
Yes,
this is the very famous and well-known art designer Michael Menzel.
Okay.
He did the board game design. He also designed this board game. So he's got a lot of input in this, and he's done a great job. This is kind of like his life project.
Ooh.
He's drawn so many other board games, and this one is the one he's passionate about.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. So what you're seeing is a lot of graphics, and it looks kind of confusing, but it's actually one of the simplest games, and it's one of the easiest to start playing.
Okay.
Because there's very little setup. Once you get going, I don't know where to put these. That right there is fine.
It's just going to live there now, guys.
So in this game, you're one of the heroes, and the heroes have different colored standees. So you have the wizard, the dwarf, and the archer. Everything that's red, they're monsters, they're creatures.
Okay, let me check out the wizard, obviously, because it is purple base. We have a little bit of yellow, so it's kind of a little transparent with my green screen.
Yeah.
But that's all right.
Yeah, so these are your characters, and you have hero boards as well that kind of give you your special ability.
Okay.
Like the warrior, he's just strong because he's a warrior.
So this is, I have Thorn, who's the warrior from Rightland.
Yes.
Awesome.
And then we have the wizard, and both of these characters can be male or female, just depending on which one you prefer. The strengths and abilities are all the same.
Okay.
Yeah. So in this case, we have the woman's side, Ira, the wizard.
Oh, so you're actually saying,
yeah.
Hey. So that or that. Oh man, that just made me really
And they're
happy.
both pretty intimidating characters.
Yeah. All right. Well, we just gotta do that right there.
So using these characters' heroes' special abilities, you're going to protect the castle.
Okay.
And you protect it by stopping monsters from attacking it.
Obviously.
Obviously. And even easier, the way you do that is you move your character from your space into the space with a monster. And that's going to cost you 1 hour of the day. You have 7 hours of the day to spend. 1 hour for one space, and then if you want to fight him, it's also going to cost you 1 hour.
Okay.
And that's it. So if you beat him, it only costed you that 1 hour. But if you didn't beat him, you can fight him again for another hour. So it's a kind of a time management game in essence.
Okay.
But it's really clever because this looks easy. Because this is easy, but there's more to the story.
Okay.
This is a story-driven game. So as you're going about protecting the castle, the story is going to progress. We have a narrator on this side. These letters represent the different chapters in the book.
Okay.
Or in this case, cards.
Okay.
And as you read these cards, they're going to give you some explanation as to what the kingdom needs. Sometimes there'll be an attack from like the forest, and all of a sudden a creature, a big boss monster, will appear in the forest, and you have to, from wherever you are, gather all of your heroes and come and attack them together.
Okay.
So you don't know that that's going to happen until you read that card.
Until you get into the narrative.
And sometimes you think to yourself, we beat the boss monster, we did it, and then all of a sudden you flip over the next card and it's like, oh, that was a decoy. Someone's actually attacking the castle now. You got to go back to the castle.
Just kidding. Awesome. So so the monsters are going to be coming through the events, through the narrative. We're trying to keep the castle protected. Talk to me about, you said that there's expansions now that are out for this game.
Yes.
What do those expansions add to the value of this game?
So what I like about this is that there's a whole world that you can kind of invest yourself into if you really want to. So after this, there's 5 more expansions, and some of those are big box expansions that add player boards just as big as this one,
Okay.
and
Oh, wow.
it's kind of cool because they actually connect. So it creates this huge world where the board extends, and you can, imagine what might happen there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you've got that giant world, but you also have all this new characters. You get a boat when you go north, because the north is the sea,
See?
and then when you go south, you get this tent, because you're like in the wilderness and you're in the caves and things like that.
Okay.
And so on top of all that, the newest expansion that's coming out is the Dark Heroes,
Okay.
which is backwards compatible with everything, and the Dark Heroes are super powerful, but also cursed. They're Dark Heroes.
Okay.
So, for instance, and this is my favorite example, the shapeshifter. He or she can turn into a bear.
Okay.
Bears are super powerful. You want
Absolutely.
them on your side when you're battling one of these, gores or scrawls, whatever it is you're battling. Problem is, bears are also animals. Sometimes he'll get distracted and he's like, I want to go to the forest. So he's just going to start wandering off back to the forest.
Oh
So in the
no!
middle
But
of
I
battle.
need you come back. Oh, that's awful.
Yeah.
That's so frustrating.
There's a sorcerer in there who's a little bit evil. It's like he's on your side, but only while it's for his advantage.
Okay.
Things like that.
All right.
Yeah.
Very cool. So tell me a little bit about the storyline that goes on in it. Are we following a straight storyline? Do things that we do in the game impact the storyline for the narrative? How does that aspect work?
Yeah. So it feels like a campaign style game because you have these warriors and you can definitely up your strength within a certain game,
Okay.
but at the end of the game everything gets reset.
Okay.
The nice part about that is if you're playing with a group of friends and someone else wants to join in, they can join into the next game at no disadvantage because you all start back at the same level.
Excellent.
And the storyline is pretty much it's pretty stereotypical. Like there's a castle, you're protecting it, and there's an evil monster who's attacking it. But then, of course, there's a big boss monster. When you beat him, you find out there's an even bigger boss monster. And when you beat him, you find out. So,
That's how adventuring works.
yeah. But these characters are really cool because in addition to the special abilities they have, it's just to kind of fulfill the storyline here, they journey around this world and they actually get older. Like
Oh,
the
yeah.
cards start to show their age. The hero boards get exchanged out. So they get older, they get more powerful and stronger with more abilities. Like the wizard gets actual special spells that he can cast instead of just manipulating dice. So
That's pretty neat.
and all of this is very accessible because you don't even have to read a rule book to start this. There's a 2-page setup guide
Mm-hmm.
to get you going, and then the story also teaches you how to play. So as you're playing, it's like, all right, now you need to go to the bridge. P.S. This is how you move.
This is how you get to the bridge.
Yeah, which is actually really convenient because it doesn't give you more than you need before you need it.
I really appreciate that. It's nice to kind of approach a game and have it broken down just into the pertinent chunks that you need while you're going through everything so you don't get confused or overwhelmed or what have you. And you had mentioned one thing that I had caught my ear earlier is that this is definitely a family game.
Absolutely.
So talk to me a little bit about the age appropriateness for this game, and have you had any family experience watching families play the game or any great stories in that realm?
Absolutely, yeah. So the box says 10 and up. But obviously, you can play with younger. There's no choking hazards here. I mean, but also your kid, you should know what they're
Don't let them put it in their
capable
mouth.
of doing. So the decisions are pretty easy, and because it's a cooperative game, you all help each other out. So you can play to pretty young, play with pretty young kids. You're going to have to help them a little bit with some of the more overarching strategies.
Right.
But on your turn, it's very simple, and kind of the reason I say it's a family-friendly game is I remember 2 years ago at Gen Con, so this has been around for a little while, right? 2 years ago at Gen Con, a family came up to me like, we want a family game, but we want something that actually has some substance because we're a gamer family.
Right.
And I said, well, you should check this out. Go to the library, check it out. And without even helping them, they put the game down, started playing it, and within an hour they came back and bought it.
Aw.
Yeah.
That's
they're like,
really
"We love this."
nice.
Yeah.
That must have felt really good to know that you were able to match them up with the perfect thing for them.
Yeah.
Well, this is absolutely awesome, Tom. Is there anything else you want to make sure our audience knows about the game before we move on to my other present that you brought for us?
Just the amount of content. There's so much here. The story-driven narrative kind of thing seems like, oh, like we're going to work through it and that's it. But within those stories, there's a lot of variation. And also online, there are literally hundreds of fan-made legends. So you could
Really?
spend a lifetime and never play everything.
Oh, that's very cool. So if I wanted to check out some of the fan-made legend, is there like a centralized resource for me to look through that? Does everybody kind of post their things individually? How am I getting my hands on some of those kinds? How am I getting involved in the community?
Right, right. So legendsofandor.com has a lot of that stuff.
Excellent.
A lot of the fan-based legends there, and also a lot of, because we encourage that.
That's awesome.
There are empty or blank hero boards that you can print out and write up your own character.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Make it very customizable and make it something that you can specifically relate to.
Yes, absolutely.
That's always the best part in any kind of story-driven game is to be able to immerse yourself in that storyline by making yourself a relatable character.
Yeah.
So that's why I really appreciate, I have to tell you, I really appreciate the fact that this game has both of the genders on the thing, so I can be whatever kind of character that I want to be and I can relate to it like that. I'm just going to throw the board around. That's what's going to happen.
No, it's a good selling point for me as well, because, and more specifically because, I mean, they're equal, right?
Right.
Like that's
Right.
really nice. Like you don't get an advantage or disadvantage to choosing either gender.
I think that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's quickly, I'm going to come back to me, and we can quickly move from one game to the next.
Great. Yeah, that'll take no time at all.
Perfect. We're
Yeah.
back on.
All right.
Okay, so we've gone from a board game, a family board game, to something a little different, but still within the family game kind of realm.
Yes.
So tell me about what you brought me.
This is called Drop It, and I think I've played it 100 times today.
Our guest who was on just before you was telling me how he was playing this game last night and had such a fantastic time playing it. So I'm really excited for you to teach me and tell me all about Drop It.
Yeah. All right. So the very quick but also thorough explanation is just this. You are trying to get points.
Okay.
And to get points, you drop your pieces into the drop zone. Now, if you're playing with four players, you're all going to get a specific color.
Okay.
2 players, you get 2 colors. And 3 players, you divvy the colors up evenly.
Okay.
But on your turn, you drop a piece in,
Okay.
like so. And this is a great example because it scores nothing. But I'll explain that later. All right, so basically you score points based on how high it gets. So within this first area, you're going to get 1 point. And if this piece had landed up here, you get 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, depending on which line it has crossed, and there are numbers here that correspond.
Okay.
You also get extra points if you hit one of these bonus circles, which might not show up too well on the camera, but they're there, and there's big ones, medium, and small
Let me
ones.
see if there we go. We can see it
Oh,
on the
yeah,
black. So we have the bonus circle here.
Yeah, so those are worth an extra 1, 2, or 3 points. So
Okay.
smaller, harder, more points. So
Okay.
the smaller circles are worth more.
So you've just dropped the rhombus, the green rhombus down into, so explain to me how that was 0 points.
All right, so there are a couple of rules that you can't break. The first rule is similar colors can't touch.
Okay.
The second rule is similar shapes can't touch. And the third rule is the one I broke, is that there's some symbols here, like this one that shows the diamond or rhombus, and it's crossed out. That means that that shape can't touch where that image is.
So let me just get a nice little close-up of this.
Yeah.
It's in reverse order because you've got the other side, but there's
Yeah.
what that image is.
Now, what might be kind of confusing at first is that, so if it's touching the bottom, it scores no points. But if it's not touching the bottom, it's fine. So,
Okay.
so like this, if this were on the inside, the square there, no points. But if it were just raised just a little bit off the bottom,
Okay.
it's fine. So you still get points. Similar with the side. So if this were all the way touching, leaning up against the side, then you score no points. But If it's a millimeter away, you're going to score
So
points.
this is not specifically, this is what you cannot have in this column. This is actually, this is what you cannot have touching this
Yes, exactly.
particular side.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and so you just drop. So go ahead, please drop some pieces.
I've definitely just decided that I'm gonna be playing.
So remember, similar shapes and similar pieces
okay.
can't touch. There you go.
Right. But I don't want that one there because that's to be 0 points.
There you go.
Okay, now I have knocked yours out of where your no rhombus is, so does that impact your score?
It does not.
Oh.
So once you've scored points, like right now, you'd get 1 point from that. That's yours, and it cannot be taken away.
Okay.
Yeah. So then, if we were playing a 2-player game, and I were say like the green and blue colors, it's now my turn. I can play whatever I want. And maybe I think I'll sneak in this circle. Oh, broke a rule again. I did say, when I said I'd played 100 times, I didn't mean I played well.
Just a lot. No, okay, very cool. So I've got 1 point. Tom has got 0 points.
This is one of those games that when I teach it to people, they think, well, I don't see why that's fun. But trust me, when you get your pieces up here and they get worth more points, and I've heard more adults curse this weekend because they forget of one rule or another, and then the kids are just laughing because they think it's just dropping shapes into so it's great.
I could see my children heckling me because I messed up on a game that looks so obvious and simple. No, I definitely see that situation happening.
Yeah.
Well, this is really cool. So what is an average score, would you say, would be considered a good score for the game?
So it depends a lot on how many players you have. If you have 4 players, then getting all the way around score track is 25.
Okay.
So if you do that and maybe a little bit more, that's really good.
Okay.
If you're playing with 2 players, you go around twice. So 50 plus is also a good score.
Oh, that sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun to just kind of drop the pieces in and hope you don't get on one of the bad squares.
Yeah, our booth has been super loud and obnoxious. I'm sure that everyone around us hates this game, but I still love it.
Hates but loves.
Yeah.
It's a hate-love relationship. Well, Tom, thank you so much for coming on. Does Things in Cosmos have any other news coming up? Any sneak peeks into what might be Gen Con releases, things of that nature?
Yes, we do have Lost Cities Rivals. So Lost Cities, the card game and the board game have been super popular around since, well, the card game was 1999.
Okay.
And it's one of those that just continually gets a lot of attention. Well, we're adding a new game to that library. It's the Lost Cities Rivals, and it's 2 to 4 players, and it's super crazy fun. You're auctioning for the coins instead of just getting them at random, but otherwise it's a very similar concept. So that I'm pretty excited about.
And if we wanted to follow up with what you guys were doing, where would my audience be going to?
So you can find us on Facebook, Thames and Kosmos on Facebook. You can also find us, we have a web page where it'll give you our Twitter handle, things like that. Everything's on there.
Excellent. Sounds good. Tom, thank you so much for taking time from your day to come and visit us and come and hang out with us.
Yeah, thank you so much.